Hi. You have read all about them. You saw their movie, which we all loved because it was funny, it was sad, and it managed to say something about the human condition. So let's welcome here writer-director Hannah Marks and actor Ben Rosenfield.
Hello.
Hello. You have been honored as a trailblazer and a force of change before even you were 25 or 30. We agree with that, by the way, but we just want to know, what was your journey getting there? In other words, how did you start in the business?
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not sure I agree, but I'll take it.
Somebody agreed.
I got started in acting. I started acting when I was about 5 or 6, doing local theater, and my mom was an actress as well. So that was really how I broke in. But actors read so many scripts. I mean, I think we read more scripts than most writers do. So it's really, really good training. And I always hate when people think that actors, can't write or direct or produce, because we're training in it all the time. So that was really my way in.
Okay, so that was your way in, but at which point did you actually connect with an agent, seriously went and auditioned? At which point did you direct your first movie? There's a lot from
Right.
5 years old till now.
Well, I guess the history goes that, I started auditioning professionally when I was about 11, and I got an agent and a manager then. And then I started making my first short films when I was a teenager. But I didn't have any representation. I didn't have an agent or manager for anything other than acting. So I really just kept going and going and going, even though no one was reading anything I was writing. And, eventually you do that enough and hound people enough, they start to pay attention. But I really tried to use it as an opportunity to get better and to grow and, force myself to grow, because there's that one really great Steve Martin quote. He says, be so good they can't ignore you. So that was really my North Star throughout all of that. And then, I co-wrote and co-directed my first feature when I was 22 or 23. And I'm 28 now. And, been working in between then and now on different projects, and made a couple other indie films since then, and have been doing more writing. And here we are.
What was the impetus? I don't even know how to pronounce that word.
Impetus.
Impetus. 40 years in this country, still not exactly there. I should have used an easier word. But so what was the impetus to not be an actress, not being an actress, but starting writing, starting directing, and so on? So it was like, I worked for Ron Howard. Okay, I was head of his company for some years. And he said that he figured out at a certain point that he's maybe not the big actor he was hoping to be, but he felt that he would be a good director. And that's when he started paying attention to everything that everybody did on the set, and, learned everything about it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think I was always really, really curious what was happening on the set, regardless of if I was, acting or not. I like to ask every crew member what they're doing and how they do it. And I think as, an 11 or 12-year-old, that was probably very annoying and precocious, but it paid off now. But yeah, I agree with Ron Howard. I think there's a certain point when you've been acting as long as, both Ben and I have, where you really, I at least for me, I stopped worrying about trying to become some unrealistic version of a movie star, and really just wanted to think about, what makes me happy, and how can I contribute to this world, and how can I tell stories, and not put some kind of unrealistic time limit on it. I really came to filmmaking because I didn't want to sit around waiting for the phone to ring.
Right.
You know, I hate that feeling. And, you know, Ben has these different outlets of whether it be, you know, music or also writing or comedy. And I think it's just important when you're in this business to be pursuing multiple things. Otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy.
Absolutely. And I'll get back to your amazing producer and director in terms of the casting that you get and everything. I want to ask Ben, you have a lot of theater experience. Is that where you started?
Yeah, my first professional job was at the New York Theater Workshop. Was a adaptation of a movie, actually, for the stage, oddly enough. It doesn't really happen. Well, I guess it's happening more and more now that Disney owns Broadway, but yeah, it was an adaptation of an Ingmar Bergman movie called Through a Glass Darkly. And yeah, it was an incredible first job. And yeah, a lot of my, you know, experience before that was doing plays in my high school, growing up in middle school and stuff like that in New Jersey.
Okay, then you transitioned. Hannah, you said that you made this movie because a friend of yours was in an open relationship and she told you some wild stories. So first of all, can you share some of those stories? The one that didn't get to the movie because they were too wild.
You know, I regret saying that. I regret saying that in whichever interview I said it in, because the truth is the movie is completely fictionalized, but the idea was sparked by the fact that so many people around me were talking about this and it was feeling more relevant than ever, despite ethical non-monogamy being around for so long. So it felt very in the zeitgeist and felt like there was something missing in the rom-com space to tell a story like this. But of course, there's so many different ways to have an open relationship, and this is just one, and I definitely fictionalized it.
Or you can come clean right now and say it was actually not your girlfriend, it was really you.
No comment.
I'm curious, did that relationship end well? I mean, do those relationships ever end up well?
I think they can. I think people are opening their mind to what relationships can look like now. I think just because it didn't work out in our movie for Mark and Mary, I don't want to preach that I think it could never work out because everyone is so different. You know, I personally am just more of a fan of a bittersweet ending, emphasis on the bitter. That's just more my style, but I definitely think it could work out.
Yeah. No, I like that ending. It really didn't go the easy way and made it a happy ending. It really kind of, I mean, you know, the dinner with the four of them at the end, it was very touching, actually. It was very, because we all had that kind of relationship where it clicked and then for whatever reason didn't work. And then, you know, you meet later, you know, you go to other relationship, but they're not quite for the thing that you had together. I thought it was very touching, and I thought it was probably even a more realistic way of, you know, telling that story.
Thank you so much. I everything you just said was exactly what, you know, we were going for and what we hoped for. So I'm thrilled to hear you say that, because that was completely the goal.
Yeah.
And we really haven't gotten to talk to many people that have seen the movie yet. So that was exciting to hear.
On the other hand, Ben, what attracted you to this role other than the possibility of having lots of sex on the set?
Yes, I've always dreamed about being filmed, kissing and groping lots of strangers, and then getting to share that with all my friends and family. I mean, that's really what it was. No. What initially attracted me to the movie was the script. Hannah is a brilliant writer, and her words just like popped off the page. You know, it was working in this sort of traditional genre of the rom-com, but subverting it in so many interesting ways.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I thought their chemistry was apparent to me on the page, just the way they riff off of each other. And so that was like,
And it came through. It came through. It
thank you.
felt like one of those relationships where it really, they were on the same page and it clicked and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just meeting Hannah, I sort of put it, as you can all see now, she's like incredibly smart, focused person. And I was like, this person's going to be making movies for a long time to come. So I'd be lucky to.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, because I saw that you co-wrote also a script.
Yeah, I've written some stuff.
So I wonder if you want to direct, and what have you learned from Hannah, who seems to get stuff done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'd certainly have interest in directing, you know. I feel like pretty focused on the acting thing right now, but I am writing some stuff with some people that I want to get put up eventually, and I am interested in directing. I think one thing I've learned from Hannah is that you know, we meet a lot of people along the way as actors, and it can be easy to not make the most of that. But she has this amazingly large network of people around her, smart, talented, creative people that she's known since middle school, and then people that she's known since the last indie that she made as an actor, that were coming together to collaborate on this behind the camera, in front of the camera. So really fostering that community and just the relationships of the people that you're working around, those can really pay off in big ways, bigger than you can really even imagine, I think.
That's great advice. I totally agree. And yeah, I think you would make a terrific director. Ben is one of those actors that's really willing to take risks and try things and show a lot of trust. And I think the best actors go on to make the best directors a lot of times. I mean, with Ron Howard and Clint Eastwood and Ben Stiller and all these
Cassavetes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so many. I mean, and Greta Gerwig right now is just killing it. There's so many great ones. I think, yeah, the better the actor you are, probably the better the director you are too.
Well, absolutely. I think that if you're creative, you're creative. You know what I mean? And some people are, that's all they want to do is act. And some people are just saying, no, this is interesting and this is interesting and I can do that. And, and you have the skill if you're creative. But I'm very interested in what he said about you having a community around you, because I think it's very, very important. I think that if you don't have a community and you have to go out there and try and put one, it's always more difficult. It's always more difficult. It's a bunch of strangers coming together. And, some of the directors, and I will even mention Ron again, is like, he's working with the same crew his entire life. You know what I mean? There's a shorthand. They trust each other. It's easy to put together, because for me as a producer, that was always the thing. How do you get all those people together from the beginning again and again? So I think this is great. But still, I wonder about how you're able to get actors like Marisa Tomei and Gina Gershon for your first movie.
I mean, I was really lucky, one, and two, I had worked with Marisa Tomei on my very first movie I ever did, which was a super small horror film. I did just a few scenes in it, and we happened to stay in touch over the years. That was when I was 11. And then, she came back and did, the handful of scenes. So, I mean, I think it helps that her shoot day was only one day. And she was kind enough to remember me and jump on. So that was, again, a situation where acting paid off in a way that I never could have anticipated. And hard work from, 12 years prior was starting to pay off, but you can't wait around for things to pay off. They just kind of have to organically happen, and you've got to just keep working your ass off.
Yeah. But obviously you stayed in good relationship with a lot of those people that you worked with, and, So I think that's very important. Ben, I saw that you did at least 17 episodes of Boardwalk Empire. And
Yes.
I know that Marty was the executive producer, Marty Scorsese, and Marty to us, and that he directed, but he directed only the pilot, right?
Correct.
So did you get to work with him at all? Or was he
Mm.
just kind of like behind reading scripts and stuff like that?
Yeah, he was giving notes on the episodes to the directors, so I'd hear their feedback about his feedback through them occasionally. And, you know, he'd be there at the premieres, but I did not get to work with him as a director, alas. But I did get to work with a lot of the directors who made my favorite TV show, The Sopranos. As far as gangster TV goes, I think that's
Not Tim Van Patten.
yeah, Tim Van Patten, Alan
I'm such a
Coulter.
fan.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the guys that put together that show, it was sort of the same crew, went on to do Boardwalk. So it was an incredible education working on that show. So I was pretty young at the time, again, early 20s.
And how old are you when you made a movie with Woody Allen?
I was doing Boardwalk at the time.
Oh, really?
I shot that. So yeah.
So you had a lock on those great New York directors.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
That's what I wanted. You know, I'm a Jersey boy. I was born in New York, moved to New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Moved back over the river. You know, I want to be a New York actor. I want to do theater, and I want to.
He worked with David Lynch too. He's worked with like a freaky amount of amazing directors.
Unbelievable.
So cool.
Lucky.
So, well, yeah, lucky, a little talent has something to do with it. So let's see if we have any questions from our students. And in between, I'll get to ask also more questions. Do we have any questions?
We do. We have a question from Sabrina Damaski from our online screenwriting program. Sabrina, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for our guests?
Non-traditional relationships are getting more popular in modern film. Was there anything specific about ethical non-monogamy that drew you to the subject?
Yeah, I loved that there were so many different ways to look at it. And my favorite types of movies are ones where every character's perspective on a situation is valid. It's not someone that's in the wrong and in the right, or good versus evil. You know, to me, both Mark and Mary had very valid interpretations of why they wanted to have the experience that they wanted to have. So to me, that's the most exciting, like getting to slice myself in half essentially and say, okay, there's part of me that's really traditional and old fashioned, and another part of me that's, you know, progressive and maybe a little more adventurous or experimental. And what happens when you put those two people together and they have to duke it out. And I think neither of them are a bad person. And that's what makes something enjoyable for me to write.
Thank you.
Hope that answered the question.
I wanted to ask you, the whole thing about having somebody on the set to direct, or the sex scene, the love scene is something that's kind of new. We just kind of used to wing it, so to speak, you know, just make the set smaller, you know, and it would just be the director. But now is even on a smaller budget movie, do you have to hire somebody who is certified, so to speak, to, you know?
An intimacy coordinator?
Yes.
That's what they call them, I believe.
Yeah, so my last movie was the first time I had worked with an intimacy coordinator ever. So yeah, it is very new. We didn't have one on Mark Mary. I don't remember if it was being talked about yet at that time, but thankfully with Mark Mary, there was no nudity. So I think that definitely helps. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on the intimacy coordinator subject. I think inherently the name of it is wrong. It's more like a liaison, right? So for me, what I think from the acting perspective, and Ben, tell me if you agree, I just like to know that there's a third party there that doesn't have an allegiance to the actors or the producers, is just an independent thinker and there to help protect you, right? Like just someone you can go to if producers or director are pressuring you.
Right.
What the job title is now kind of involved is very specific kind of blocking and methods of working and styles of communication that I don't think necessarily work for all crews or all actors. So I guess I'm ready for that conversation to continue to evolve so the role finds itself, because I think it's very, very valuable if it's done right. But if it's done in a poor way, then it can be detrimental. So I think that position is going to continue to evolve, and I hope it does.
Yeah, because there might be too much into the technical part of it rather than.
Yeah, and every actor has so many different ways of working. Like Ben and Haley have different processes, and so you can't really give this cookie cutter approach to scenes. I just think it has to be customized.
Do we have a question, or is everybody shy?
We do. We have a question from Abhishek. We've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for our guests?
So I basically wanted to ask Hannah, because I read somewhere that Hannah actually moved effortlessly, from one genre to other. Now, whilst I understand that it is also difficult to be writing different genres as a script, but what I wanted to know was, as a director, how difficult is it when your comfort zone is one genre and you are actually trying out different genres? What is the mindset that you need to adapt with respect to the same?
Yeah, I think the story and the characters come first. So I think it's much easier to make these tonal switches if you think it's something that would actually happen to the characters. I think, characters really don't need to be likable. They need to be understandable to some degree, I think. So I think if you start to really understand the characters' actions, then audiences will go on a journey with you that maybe they wouldn't have. And it helps that if you have very appealing actors who are very good at their jobs and have great chemistry, like Ben and Haley. I was so fortunate to have them, and I think they make it possible to switch between the genres.
Whose dog is barking?
That's mine. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute.
Oh, we want to see the dog.
It'll be a whole thing.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, do we have another question?
We do. We have a question from one of our New York Evening students, JD Rao. JD, we've enabled you to unmute yourself. What is your question for our guests?
Great, thank you so much. And thanks so much for doing this. Hannah, I had a question for you. How much time did you spend researching the subject matter? And, I'm a new filmmaker, and my understanding is, or at least my experience has been, that it's easier to write for and direct a subject matter that I'm familiar with. How do you sort of get into that world if that's a world that you're not familiar with?
Yeah, I agree with that advice, but I think you can open that up to many interpretations. Like I did spend a long time researching ethical non-monogamy and reading articles and books and really thinking about it and then interviewing people. But that being said, like our story can be personal to you, even if it's about aliens or robots, right? So it doesn't have to be your exact life story. You're not, making a documentary or a biopic. I think something that's close to you and something you know about could be anything you want, as long as the heart of what you're trying to tell is something that you connect with. Because I think specificity is most important. If you can be specific with any topic because the feelings are true, then that's what matters. So I wouldn't limit yourself to just your own life story in that sense.
Thank you.
Do we have another question?
I have a question that was submitted that I'm going to go ahead and pose because their microphone is not working. And this question is for Ben. Ben, you played the gay son in Mrs. America, which clearly is a very different role than this. Was Cate Blanchett a influence in your acting in that series?
She was she an influence in my acting in that series?
How did she
Well,
influence?
it's the
acting?
How
great,
did she influence my acting? I see. Well,
if any,
yeah, I can, let's see.
because she's the great Kate Blanchett.
She is the great Kate Blanchett, and she is great. You know, she is like a Olympic athlete. This is the best way I can compare it. She works incredibly hard, and she thinks about, I think some things I picked up from her is one, she doesn't waste any takes. Every take is, she's giving 100%, and they're all usable and they're all different. She's always giving herself, she's very on top of like what's she doing physically in this scene. So she's like asking the prop master for props that she's already imagined that she would have. She's all about giving herself physical activities, which I found that interesting to see that that's just something that she came in with a lot of ideas every day about that. And then, and that she thinks about it not just emotionally, like, yeah, just technical things as well. That she's able to have both of those things going on so well. Like she's even thinking about if the angle is right, and for just the way her face looks. And she has her hair and makeup people who she's worked with for years that are her friends. So she can ask, she's not asking the director or the DP what they think, she's asking her friends what they think.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so those are a couple of things. But yeah, she's one of my favorite actors. It was really a dream to get to work with her for sure.
I remember you passed along advice you got from her to me that I now take in my life, which was, you said something, we were talking about exposition in scenes, and you had mentioned to me that Kate had said, you've just got to be having a feeling. You've just got to really be feeling something during it. And that then people go with it. You
Absolutely.
kind of plotty information if you're watching someone go through something. So I'm definitely taking that with me as an actor and as a director.
Yeah, that was cool to see her look at a chunk of dialogue and be like, well, nobody cares what I'm going to be saying here, because it's just stuff to make the plot make sense. So I'm going to have to make something out of this, yeah.
Well, it's nice because I've always, you always hate exposition as an actor, but it's a necessary evil. And really, you've got to learn to love it. Otherwise, you're never going to sell it.
Yes, that's true.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
We have another question here from Michelle Sanders. Ben, how does preparation for performing in theater versus film vary? And is there anything that is similar for you?
It's a great question. There are a lot of differences as far as the preparation, in that at least when you do a play like in New York, off Broadway, on Broadway, at a major regional theater like the Geffen or Steppenwolf or something like that, you're gonna have at least 4 weeks of rehearsal, where every day you're all getting together in a room and just exploring what it can be just in a room, saying the words. And you really don't really get that in movies, especially in an independent movie. Like I met Haley 3 or 4 days before we started shooting the movie. So it's completely different in that sense.
Sorry about that.
No, I mean, I really love working both ways. You have to do a lot more work on your own or without the people that you will be working with in film and even in TV, which is complicated because you can get in your head, and you really need to do your work before you get there, but then you need to be working with the people that you're there with and not coming in with your own idea about the movie or whatever. And I guess the thing that I feel is similar, because not all theater actors work in film and vice versa. It's, there are some differences in the medium, but for me, like, the end result is similar in that, like, the best acting, whether it's on stage or in film, is like very, very truthful. It's exciting when actors make transformations physically and stuff like that, but like, I think that truth, it's a very kind of small thing, and even on stage it's small, and it's small in movies too. So it's the kind of thing you like lean in and see. So yeah, I do believe that the end result in some ways there's some similarity. And I think it's really an important thing for actors to do, because one other major difference, right, is you tell the story in order every night when you do a play, which you really never do in film or television. Hardly ever tell the story in order, because scheduling it's virtually impossible to do that with locations and light and all that stuff. And then the other thing is you don't get to say, oh, sorry, I screwed that one up. Can we take it back? Like having to do 8 shows a week and tell the story all the way through in front of a live audience without stopping, even if you mess up, is like really good training for actors, I think.
Thank you. I just watched the Pacino interview that I did years ago, and he was just talking about how hard it was for him to do all the 7, 8 shows a week. He was talking about the same thing, about how much time you have to rehearse at stage and how little you have for the movies. But he was just talking also about, and how do you get to the truth and all that. But he was talking about how hard it was, you know, to do those 7, 8 shows. I mean, you give it all Saturday afternoon and 2 hours later, you have to start again, you know, and stay fresh and stay close to the truth. How do you get to the truth as an actor? What is your technique?
I have not found that there is one way in that works every time.
Really?
I find that I have to keep finding new ways in, and that is good, because I think artists should constantly be pushing themselves to keep becoming something, not ever kind of. But yeah, I think that there's something about imagination and emotional memory, those 2 words, and relaxation. Those 3 words, I would say, are words to look into and consider. As a performer, they're important, I think.
Thank you. Mike?
I have a question that was submitted here for Hannah. Hannah, at which point in your career did you get an agent, and what advice do you have for young aspiring director to find one?
Yeah, it's tricky because I did get my agent when I was 11 as an actor. So I probably have a more unusual experience. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't remember, unfortunately. I wish I could have a better answer for you. I guess as a filmmaker, how I got an agent that was different from my theatrical agent was just continuing to write and send it out there. And, you know, eventually when no one was reading, I you know, had cut down with my partner at the time, we had cut down the script into a small sizzle. And we wanted to get that sizzle produced to show people it could be made. And the producer we sent it to help us make the sizzle ended up really liking it and optioning the movie. And that got us our filmmaking agents. But then I since went back under the same roof at my acting agency so I could keep my career in one piece instead of having 2 separate careers. I really wanted to blend the 2. So it's been a kind of long backwards journey. I've been at every agency you can imagine. So I'm glad to just be with one now. But it's a process and it's different for everyone.
Thank you. I do have a similar question that was submitted here for Ben, which is, Ben, what advice would you give to a new actor after finishing school to get started?
My advice would be, while you're not either in your scene study class working on continuing your education after you're done with college, because I think scene studies are great places for actors to just keep honing their craft. And there's tons of them all over the world. And you can do them all on Zoom now too, which is cool. Is make your own stuff. Get in touch with your creative voice in a way that you can execute that without the permission of a casting director saying, our director saying you got the part. And make your own stuff so that people can see you in something. Because just to sort of piggyback off of the last question that Hannah got, I think the only way I'm aware of anyone getting an agent or a manager is they saw them in something and they really liked it, or they saw something they made and they really liked it. So as actors, I think you should see your education as something that's ongoing for the rest of your life, and that you still have the ability to make things yourself just because you're pursuing a career as an actor.
Yeah. It was interesting because when we had Spielberg here, somebody said to him, but what do you do not to get depressed in between jobs? And he said most of the people they finish the movie, they go back to classes, and they continue. It's just like, if you're a boxer, in between the boxing matches, you're going to go every day and you're going to train, So that's kind of interesting.
That's right. I think that's
definitely, and having other things you're passionate about too, so you feel more well-rounded, I think is good. It's something to distract yourself from, the pains of this industry.
Yeah. The other thing is you can't take the rejection personally. And if you do, then you're not well suited for being an actor, I think. Can't take it personally. You got to have a thick skin and just keep going.
I firmly believe that it isn't personal. There's only one person that ever gets the job.
Right.
So
it's true. It's true. And sometimes the choice of a director is so subjective. It's just like somebody reminds him of his girlfriend, somebody reminds him of his mother, somebody reminds him of the close friends. It's something like that. So,
I think it's totally about the energy. Like, do you fit the energy of the piece that the director has in mind? There are so many wildly talented actors. You give every talented actor a job, we'd all have jobs, but I think it's so much about vibe. So you can't kick yourself for not being a mind reader and not having the energy of something completely made up.
Yeah. Hannah, you are just, I read that you going to direct the John Green from John Green's novel, the Turtle movie.
Yes, Turtles all the way down.
It didn't say what studio you're doing it for, but it just said that you're the youngest director they ever did a studio movie.
Yeah, unfortunately, the movie didn't happen. So the movie was set up at Fox, and it was very, very exciting. And then the Disney merger happened, and we were in prep and we got shut down. But thankfully, we're still making the movie, so that will be my next job. I'm still very, very passionate about it.
Of course. I mean, yeah, because Fox did the Fault.
Yeah, Fault in Our Stars.
And you are also scheduled to do a movie with my pal Donald DeLine. Is that still happening?
Yeah, I actually just had to ignore his call during this. I literally just declined him a second ago.
Did not bother you in the evening, tell him.
I did not want to interrupt our chat. So yeah, the movie happened. We filmed it in New Zealand for 4 months this year, and
really,
I'm editing it right now, so I'm sure he's calling.
Wow,
Sure, I'm gonna get some notes.
Wow. No, Donald is incredible. He's an incredible guy, and he has been in the business for so long, and he really, and has always been quite professional and nice and so on. So give him my best when you talk to him.
I will. Yeah.
But you do not stop. You are unstoppable.
Well, I feel stoppable, but thank you.
Well, no, because really you are on a roll, and and you just get it done in an industry that is just so difficult, and things fall apart every minute, and somehow you keep accomplishing things. So I am quite admiring of that. I think that the movie that you and Ben did here resonates in all kind of ways, obviously, about the grass that is always greener, about it's never enough what you have.
Always greener I said it's funny you say that, because the grass is always greener was really the main theme I wanted to explore with this. I'm glad that translated.
Yeah, because you can have the greatest thing, and you still think that maybe somebody else has it even greater.
Totally.
And sometimes you destroy what you really had that was so great by just thinking, yeah. And maybe sometimes when what you have is not so great, so it's good to go outside. But in your movie, it really resonated in that, because it's a basic human condition.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the accomplishments, but the only reason Mark Mary got made was because Turtles shut down. So for me, it's like you can't have all your eggs in one basket, sort of what we were talking about. You just got to stay busy and try to keep growing. And so when Turtles shut down, that's when we got this movie going. And so that's, it was really hard and sad at the time because we had worked so long on it, but it was clearly what was meant to be, because now I get to be here talking with you guys. So I hope anyone listening can take that with them. Just because something feels like it's falling apart or failing, a lot of times it's opening a door you don't know existed.
Right. And that's in relationship, that's in jobs, that it's about everything really in life. But I hope you get to do the turtle thing, and it may come back and it's in a different way, and so on and so forth. So really good luck with that. Ben, what's next for you?
A couple things. I got another movie coming out in New York in December, called You Mean Everything to Me. That this cool New York company called Factory 25 will be distributing. Yeah, working on a new album. I do music as well, so I've been working on a new album with my brother.
How fun is that?
Yeah.
How fun is that? Yes.
It's been really good.
I love making music. Yeah, I think it's so fun, really.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things around the bend.
Okay. Well, Mike, unless there's the question, is there more question?
There is. Michelle Sanders has submitted another one, but I will ask for her. The question is for both of you. And it asks, is there a film genre you prefer to work on or in, and why?
I don't have one I prefer to work in, but I would love to. I know what I'd love to work in would be something more in the kind of futuristic or apocalyptic space, like something where you can use a lot of scope and have a big budget. That stuff excites me.
Yeah. I always just like a good story, and like the genre is kind of, I've similarly, I kind of like all genres, and the longer I've been doing it, the more I want to try and be in every kind of genre of movie if I can. Yeah, I've definitely had periods of time where I was like kind of a little bit more into just like art films or whatever, things that were like really challenging. But I think genre is cool to play with.
Yeah, comedy is always fun too. If you want to just be able to have a better experience, I think
it's fun.
Comedy is the one.
Yeah, it's fun.
I agree. In between the heavy drama and so on and so forth, it's good to have a comedy. And your film was really funny, and it was really fun. And, it had everything. And so, because it was funny, and as I said, it was touching at the end, and it said something. And so I really think you have something wonderful here. And I wish you good luck going out with that. I still think, Hannah, that you should confess in your next thing that it's your story. I think you can't discount voyeurism at all. And no, but anyway.
Well, you know what? There's got to be, I told Ben earlier, there's got to be a sequel, because he also plays music and sings. And so I think he's got to join in a band with Mary. And then maybe I'll start confessing things.
We are going to try and help you. We are going to post it in our social media. We're going to do a blog about it. There will be a Q&A that, we're going to post and people could see. And so I think that in our small way, we can be helpful to this wonderful movie. And we thank you so much for taking your time and, away from Donald the Lion and whatnot. and really devoting the time and coming, here to help students, because when you're at school, it's very important to see somebody who's actually doing it out in the world and is doing it. And it's inspiring because it says, maybe I can do it too. And then they learn 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things from you that could be helpful. Even if one thing that was said here, stays in their mind, it's already a tremendous help. And so,
Sorry, go ahead.
no.
Oh, I was just going to say, Ben, I hope this is something that can be encouraging, which is that, Ben had mentioned my kind of large network of collaborators and friends that came onto the movie, but a lot of them, we were wanting to take a chance on. A lot of them were people who had never done a movie before, who worked on this film. So I hope that's encouraging to anyone who's listening. Like, we all wanted to work with people that were completely brand new. There's an excitement that comes with that, and people are willing to take a chance on you. So I hope that can be encouraging.
I think so. I appreciate that you say that. And I think they appreciate it very much. So I really want to say namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending the evening with us. And we are very grateful. And again, good luck with the movie.
Thank you so
and
much.
your future endeavors, which I think we're going to see you and we're going to hear you and we're going to watch you many, many years to come.
Thank you so much. I'll tell Donald you said hi.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Take care, guys.
You.